Hey, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. That's right, $1,500. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. That's O-N and the number 3, ON3. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code ON3 when you sign up. So make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. Go with BetMGM.com. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 and over only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And in the United States, that's 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. In Massachusetts, 1-800-327-5050. In Iowa, 1-800-BETS-OFF. In Puerto Rico, 1-800-981-0023. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-GAMBLER. First bet offer for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. And this is in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you've not signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. And welcome to the SpartanMag.com VCast. Jim Comparoni, Jason Killop, Perlis Plaza, Conondike. He's on assignment right now. We'll get back with him later in the week, most likely. But Jason Killop does a great job covering recruiting for SpartanMag.com. He was at interviews today. Joe Rossi came out, spoke a little bit. Jordan Hall, Jalen Thompson. And Jason, one of the things we're hearing a lot about this game. We've got a big game, by the way, Jason. I don't know if you heard about it. They're playing American tackle football on Saturday. It's a big deal in this country, this part of the state and everything. And Michigan's coaches. Nobody's suspended this week that I know of, so that's all behind them. Well, Michigan's pretty good. They won a couple games here, beat Washington last week. Michigan State, 4 straight losses. Need to turn the season around. Everybody knows that. Nobody's giving Michigan State much of a chance to win this game. Joe Rossi talking today, Jonathan Smith on Monday. One of the themes that I've heard a couple times is not only is the game a rivalry game and it's important in that regard, but I've heard more than one. I've heard a player and I heard Smith on Monday talk about it's not only a big game for the rivalry, but for the direction of the season and the program. I've heard that kind of that type of theme, that kind of phrasing from Smith and from a player. They're motivated to win a rivalry game, but I thought it was intriguing this week that they're talking about to turn the season around and the direction of the program. Did you catch that?
Yeah, definitely.
Any thoughts on that?
I thought that was interesting, and for a program and a coaching staff that needs some juice right now, what better way to do it than against your rival and go to try to put together the best performance you can this weekend. And there's a lot of consistent messaging. It seems like the players and coaches did a lot of research into Mark D'Antonio and some of the messaging from him in the past. Both Jordan Hall and Jalen Thompson each quoted D'Antonio in different ways, and you can tell that there's an emphasis on the rivalry and the importance of what it means for this weekend.
Yeah, quoting D'Antonio, Thompson said they've seen the D'Antonio film a number of times. He said, meaning it's not over, it'll never be over. That that's been mentioned to them, and it's something that needs to be mentioned to them because I mentioned this in an article over at SpartanMag.com. By the way, $1 SpartanMag.com basketball coverage throughout the week. Big game, well, exhibition game Thursday, but interesting because Michigan State's first basketball game tomorrow over at Breslin Center. We'll have coverage of that. $1 1 week SpartanMag.com. Check it out, and also give us a like here on the channel. We'd appreciate that as well, and subscribe to the channel. We'd appreciate that. In terms of the what was I talking about a minute ago before I started talking about all this stuff?
The direction of the program, how this weekend.
Yeah, with the way Michigan State's been playing, in terms of actually trying to win this game and getting it done, not much of what we've seen in recent weeks would lead you to believe that they can. I'm not saying Michigan's great, but to expect Michigan State to be competitive and then get over the hump with a victory. I mean, being competitive, that could happen, but in order to do that, the defense needs to show they can play 8 straight plays without an individual mistake, a miscommunication, an assignment error. There's still too many of those. Now, sometimes a team can turn those things around. Doesn't usually happen overnight. It's usually a gradual type of thing. And there's been plenty of times when Michigan State has been a decided underdog in this game, and they've come out and won and surprised people. But those teams that have done it over the last 30 years, since I've been watching 40 years, it usually has to be defense first. And the defense has to be solvent first. So for Michigan State to make a run and win in this game, that defense has to get corrected with those assignments and people not getting influenced into the wrong direction and so forth. Hall was talking about that. Rossi was talking about that. You can see, I asked Rossi about frustration. He says you can't let frustration hinder your performance or words to that effect, but he did not deny that is a task that they still keep trying to chip away at. And so far, not a lot of progress there. With what Rossi said today, what were your takes on what some of what he had to say?
Yeah, Michigan State's obviously looking to be a lot more consistent, looking for any sort of consistency on defense, and I think a lot of that could with the question marks of injury status of Nikai Martinez and Ade Willie and some of those guys that could return this week could be a big factor in kind of that cohesiveness. But it's hard to be optimistic about this defense until you kind of see it. And like you said, you want to see some more consistency, 8 to 10 plays without mistakes or mental errors or things like that. And yeah.
Martinez and Ade Willie, that's been a big part of it. Martinez has only played a game and a half all year. Ade Willie's played 4 games. You take a couple of experienced guys. Really, the entire defense only has a year and a half of experience in this system, but those 2 guys have been with them for a year and a half, 4-year players. Martinez, a second-year player here in the program. Those 2 players being out of the lineup, I think I'm guessing, exacerbated and amplified the communication problem that they're having on defense. And it's not every single play. It's just like every 8th player. So we go back to the UCLA game. Michigan State goes 3 and out. Michigan State gets the ball, scores 7-0. They're on the verge of going 3 and out again, have them at 3rd and 8. And there's an assignment error with Samaj Bridgman on the field. When they go to a second-string player, a lot of times it's those guys that are making mistakes. And I asked Rossi about that sometimes it's the players that weren't in the starting lineup at the beginning of the year that are making those mistakes. And he's, in my opinion, he's trying to find – you have to be multiple on defense in football these days. Obviously, changing coverages, doing some things, changing things up. You have to be able to do that. But there's a fine line, a happy median in doing too much of it with too many second-string players. They don't have it's not like everybody's second string, but finding the fine line there is a key that they are going to need to tap into this game. Something we haven't seen demonstrated yet. Needs to happen in this game, if at all possible, to stay competitive. In this conference in the Big Ten, if you don't have a defense, you're not going to be consistent. Right now, Michigan State's consistently not good enough. And Smith has mentioned that they need to find he's wondered, do we have too much in on defense? And that's something we've been hearing for 2 or 3 weeks. You're getting cold. It's about 45 degrees here. It feels like football weather. We're going to keep you out for another minute or so, or another few minutes. Interestingly, last year the game ends with the scuffle. Loveland, the tight end, and Anthony Jones, who transferred to UCLA, had a little scuffle, a little dust up there by the Michigan bench. The Michigan bench pours out. A Michigan State staffer comes out, tries to have a hand in breaking it up, falls to the ground, gets roughed up a little bit. No further punishment, no further problems with that one. No guilt, no suspensions on that particular situation. But the players were asked a little bit about that. Jordan Hall, linebacker from Michigan State, was asked how much has that come up, and he said seldom. But his facial expression was, it has come up. I don't know if you agree with that. Was that your take as well?
Yeah, for sure. And I think they did a good job, Thompson and Hall, both speaking today, of keeping things civil and maybe not fully saying everything that they truly feel and want to say, but they did hint at those types of things. And they mentioned that they watched the replays of that incident at the end of the year last year, and they moved on. And like I said, they were saying all the right things, but you could tell, like you said, with their facial reactions and their body language, that there's those incidents and those things that they don't take them lightly at the same time.
Michigan State, I made this point in an article today about Aiden Childs and what he said about the rivalry. He came from the Oregon State rivalry, and he said that the Oregon State rivalry did not compare. Michigan State was way bigger. Joe Rossi mentioned that today. He was part of rivalries and all the stops he's been along in his route, small colleges and so forth, but also at Rutgers. Rutgers didn't have a rival, he said. At Minnesota, they had Wisconsin, but he said nothing was like this one, and you really have to be in it for a year to understand it. There's a lot of people in the program for Michigan State that didn't understand it last year from the top down, And I think that Michigan State, but despite that, Michigan State came out and dominated the first quarter and a half of that game last year. So, you can say that they didn't understand the rivalry or whatever, but you watch the first quarter and a half of that game last year, they certainly understood football, and the offensive line played better than we'd seen all year or any time since was the first quarter and a half in that game. Michigan State's offensive line has struggled this year. Injuries, Stanton Ramil's out, Christian Phillips out, Vincic out, Aleppo's out. They were rotating 8 guys on the offensive line, but now it's only a 5 or 6 man rotation with those 4 offensive linemen. That they would certainly love to have those 4 offensive linemen in the game this year. Last year they came out on the offensive line and pushed them around. Whether or not Michigan State can find that with this banged up offensive line, I'm not going to shut the door on that possibility. We've not seen that yet. But when they talk about rivalry game, throw the records out the window, it's those type of things that can creep up in a game like this.
Yeah.
And what are you thinking about an offensive line for Michigan State?
Yeah, Michigan State desperately needs to establish some sort of running.
It's all week, baby, all week, all week. That's right. I don't know. Can't remember what I was talking about.
We were talking about the offensive line. Michigan State desperately needs to establish some sort of running game with their running backs. I think Childs had by far the most rushing yards in the Indiana game with like 48.
Yes.
The running backs combined for 25 yards or so, something like that, and that's not going to get the job done, obviously. And of course, you also need to pass protect. So it all starts up front in this rivalry, and Michigan's got a feisty defensive line with some really good athletes. So they'll be in the backfield looking to make Michigan State pay. So a lot of it will start up front right there.
We'll talk about recruiting here in a minute, real quick. I'll have you shiver a little bit more. Michigan, what they do on defense. We were just going through the Washington game a little bit more, and an example of their depth. I mean, Derek Moore, excellent edge rusher, number 8 for Michigan. He's only playing about 32 snaps a game. We were going over some of those plays a minute ago. The impact he has as a pass rusher, but they've got the depth that he only has to play 32 snaps a game. You can argue maybe he should play more. I don't know, but TJ Guy comes in, a guy that had an impact on last year's game, and he's only playing, like 15 snaps a game, 17 snaps a game. Had an impactful play in the third quarter. I can't remember if he drew a holding call or whatever, but defensive end for Michigan. TJ Guy would be the best player on Michigan State's defense, and he's playing 17 snaps a game there. And they've been healthy, and they bring him in waves. And it's not a great Michigan defense. But it's pretty good. They had trouble against USC. Everybody has trouble against USC this year. But they got turnovers last week, which turned the game against Washington. But Michigan State, it's a tough game for them to get anything going in the run game. Aiden Childs, so much has been on his back for 2 years, and played well against Indiana. I thought they had a good game plan with some short passing attack, moving the pocket, throwback screens, counter boot action, and they move the ball, possess the ball through the air. Michigan pass defense. Indiana had a real good defense statistically in all season, but watching Michigan on defense, I think their pass defense, it's going to be a little stickier, I think, than Indiana's. So Aiden Childs, once again, so much on him. Now Indiana's pass rush statistically is excellent. Childs still had time to make those quick reads to make things happen. Do you have a feel on Aiden Childs and what he might be able to do in this game? What's your gut for Childs against this Michigan defense? If he doesn't have, you can't trust him to have a time to throw in the pocket with Moore out there, and you can't expect the run game to miraculously be great. Although last year did come alive in this game. Your thought about Childs? You got a hunch on him?
Yeah, considering competition, the Indiana game might have been one of his most impressive performances in East Lansing, or just purely passing the ball. And with this weekend, Michigan's coming off a really strong defensive performance containing Demon Williams of Washington. He gets his yardage on the ground at times, and they held him last week. So that they're going to make things challenging on Childs, both limiting the run game, and like you said, it's going to be a pretty sticky pass defense as well. But with Marsh and Kelly hopefully getting some separation, Michigan State could try to move the ball through the air, and we'll see how that translates to establishing the run.
Yeah, Marsh last week, or earlier this week, talked about last year, learning a lot about the rivalry in that game. Childs, of course. Michigan State needs to be sharp. I think Michigan State has some belief. Now, whether or not they can retain belief as the game goes along, it's going to be interesting. Justice Haynes, the running back for Michigan, does he play? Excellent running back, did not play last week. Kenneth Walker type of impact on their season, in my opinion. Maybe not quite as great as K9, but I don't think Michigan's offensive line is great, but he still chops off those home run plays every week when healthy. But Marshall came in last week, Jordan Marshall, 133 yards, I think it was, against Washington, 5'11", 216, plays with some power, a young guy. Michigan with that depth showing throughout the course of the season. And Michigan, it was 7-7 that game against Washington late in the third quarter. They didn't really destroy Wisconsin. I've not gone through that game with a fine-tooth comb or anything, but Michigan is still searching their A game and their best game as well. And they might find it this weekend. But recruiting real quickly with Michigan State and the troubles they're having this weekend. We were talking earlier, reaction from people that are committed to Michigan State. They've gone a little quiet here lately, would you say?
Yeah, when I'm talking to recruits, most of them they're saying the right things and remaining committed to Michigan State right now. But I think that a lot of them are kind of in wait and see mode to see how the rest of this fall campaign plays out for Michigan State. And Jonathan Smith and their staff, Cole Moore, general manager, they have a really strong reputation of being able to hold on to commits once they have them. Even going back to Oregon State and last year, the Cyclone East Lansing, they don't lose a ton of commits once they get them. But in this age of recruiting in this landscape, it can be inevitable, especially when there's struggles on the field in the fall. The majority of the class does seem to be locked in as of now. If things continue to spiral on the field in a bad way, I could see multiple decommitments, especially with a lot of guys being outside of the region in the Midwest footprint. But what's better way to gain some more recruiting momentum than a win over the weekend?
So in so many fronts, a win would be huge for Michigan State. Not only the meaning of the rivalry, but for the season and the program and recruiting and everything. A lot in line for Michigan State. Nobody's really expecting Michigan State to do this. But as a program and as a football history, Michigan State's done it before. We'll see if they can summon some of that magic again on Saturday. Cameras moving all over the place because of the wind. We don't have Konadike here, so we don't have the big industrial strength camera. We're a little bit lighter, and it's not working in the wind so well. It's kind of raining. It's drizzling a little bit. It feels like football. It's October. Tempers are starting to flare, but keep it under control. Keep a lid on it. Michigan State's players are saying they want to play with emotion, but not emotional. They say there's a difference that's being driven home to them as well. Jonathan Smith, not really known as a fire and brimstone, fiery type of guy, but in the walls, in meetings, he's a direct person and turns it up to 7 or 8 once in a while in meetings and so forth. Not a guy that turns it up to 11 like D'Antonio or even Mel Tucker. Mel Tucker got these guys fired up for the Michigan game on a number of occasions. But Smith, for this game, I don't know if he has a 10 or 11, but if he goes up to 7 or 8 in terms of intensity, I don't know if we'll see it in public, but I think he's going to tap into that a little bit in this game. He's more of a clinical thinker, but for this game and after last year and after saying he'll never forget that sucker last year, his first time in that game, we might see a little different level of Jonathan Smith. And will the players respond to that? They talk about a team taking on the personality of a head coach. I think we've seen that this year, sometimes to a negative, maybe too docile against UCLA. But if they sense that he's going up a couple notches, I think they will all come up a couple notches. They've got all kinds of reasons to do so. So I think Michigan State will be, no question, it'll be the sharpest version of Michigan State that they can be for at least a quarter or two, and we'll see where that goes. And if they get in position to win, can then they finish it and get a victory? All those things remain to be seen. Michigan, in the meantime, a lot of good talent, pretty good team, trying to get to 10-2, and trying to beat Ohio State again, and trying to get the playoff and all those things. So I don't know if they've shown they can do that to this point, but they're going to want to show also that they're making progress as well. College football is going to be fun Saturday. Everybody keep. When Michigan fans, come in and start chattering at you, just I've got faith in Michigan State fans for just kind of like, moving on and realizing that this is not an NFL stadium, although there will be NFL-style players, NFL-style fans. wearing maize and blue in the stadium on Saturday. So Godspeed to you Michigan State fans that are going to have to deal with that, but it might end up being a good day. We'll see. Been surprised before. Anything else, Jason? I'm going to get him out of the cold. He's going to catch a cold. I feel bad for Jason. Jason Killop, Jim Comparoni, VCast, Pearl's Plaza in East Lansing with the Spartans, SpartanMag.com.